Welcome back to Media 7, where I'm discussing the review of the New Zealand Film Commission with Richard Fletcher, Ant Timpson and Vincent Ward. Now, films weren't always made by the book in the early years of New Zealand's modern movie industry, and sometimes that meant something no one expected. We all know that our 80s screen culture was all about dreadful films made as tax breaks and gratefully forgotten, right?
Come on, you motherless tick! Come on, you slut, fly!
Actually, not quite. NZ On Screen recently brought to light a trilogy of Polynesian cinema that, rough and naive as it might be in places, still feels special today. It began with Kingi's story. Producer-director Michael Walker had been teaching art at the Kohateri Correctional Home in Levin, where he found not only stories he wanted to tell, but a lead actor and co-writer in Mitchell Manuel. It took 3 years to find the money. It came eventually from the TVNZ drama department. Walker and Manuel worked together again on the Borstal story, Kingpin. The final film, directed by John Anderson, was the one Walker and Manuel had wanted to make in the first place, Mark 2, a road movie dubbed The Polynesian Easy Rider. And it might have been the last, but there were names for the future in its credits. Could these films have been made today by a small-town commercial director and a Maori kid literally straight out of Borstal? Probably not. But their authenticity, their unexpectedly stylish action scenes, and the past they conjure should make us grateful that Michael Walker found a way to make them when he did. Now, as I said in that track, I do wonder whether films like this could be made by people like that these days. Have we lost something there?
Well, no, not really. I mean, in terms of you know, an independent project getting up, shot with new talent, I think, I mean, that can happen, you know, at a moment's notice. It's just well, it's like alchemy if everything falls into place. I mean, whether that would succeed, those films, and I love both of those projects, they're fantastic, but in some ways television has really grown a lot since the time they were made, and whether, you know, if it was more cinematic and if it was, you know, a Decepticon soundtrack, then possibly, yeah, it could work as a feature film, but I think it would cost a lot more, and it would depend on financing. I mean, yeah.
Vincent Ward, you started making films with John Maynard in what seems like very much a past era. Was it the case then that there were fewer layers to get through, there was less structure, and you could get the nod more easily?
Well, I think my first short feature was before John, and we made that on, you know, we financed it ourselves, just myself and Tim White, by not spending much. And then we didn't go to the Film Commission until after we'd finished shooting it, and it was a 52-minute drama. And we shot it, we edited it, started editing it, and then we showed it to the Commission, and then they came in. And I think that there's still room for filmmakers, particularly with gear and film stock or digital stock being so cheap, to go out and shoot a part of a film, or go out and shoot a contained film, raise a small amount of money from different sources, or, you know, if possible, or from mates even, and then take it to the Commission and say, hey guys, we've edited it, what do you think? Are you prepared to pony up with some more money for it?
Richard, that seems to be the kind of flexibility there that Vincent's talking about seems to be really the gist of the review, and this idea of empowered individuals who don't have to go through a board, there's no committee meetings, who can say, yeah, we'll do that. I mean, is that doable?
I think it is. I mean, yeah, people have come in and said the Film Commission's already on that path. They're partly on that path, but they need to go a long way further. I think it is, and the accountability is key. Yeah, if there is an individual who you can empower, and it's going to make it a much more exciting job for someone working at the Film Commission to say, you have the ability to greenlight a film or greenlight development, and you don't have to go through a committee. That is a good thing, both from a filmmaker's perspective and from a staff perspective.
What does that mean, though? What does the back end of accountability mean?
If someone is responsible for the decision, you can look over their period of their term and say, that film didn't. You said this film was going to do X. It didn't. You didn't deliver. Yeah. Where at the moment there's not that level of accountability.
So what is it in terms of critical or in terms of box office? Well, is it a figure? I mean, how do you judge what's a success?
Well, I can say what we got back from the minister was he said yes, commercial success is still important, but perhaps not at every stage of the process. And he also said that he didn't think there was any major conflict with established models of accountability. He said this is the way some Crown entities run. So he clearly thinks it's doable.
The good thing about the review is to say soften the commercial intent. I think what is key is not whether the film is commercial or non-commercial. It's identifying its audience and being honest to that audience. And what the test is, you said we're making it for this audience. If you don't deliver to that audience, that's a mark of success. Or
but I'd also say, in terms of like Vincent, you know, a film, one early film of Vincent's is like, if you did a market report on Vigil, like it would come back pretty terrible. And I think to lose a visionary like Vincent is absolutely nuts.
Per budget, it actually did pretty well.
No. No, in terms of
per its budget, it actually did very well, and it did very well. It was released in America. It was, you know, shown all over the place. Shown, you know, most films don't get releases outside of New Zealand. Vigil did. And won a number of film festivals.
It would be fair to say...
I have to pull you up on that one.
No, Vincent, actually I was saying before it was made, I was saying if the Film Commission had done, you know, let the marketers get involved and say, we don't think there's an audience for this film, then it would have been a different story.
That's a good point. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I had not against the film at all. I love the. I said I was trying to support you, you crazy man.
I don't think it is the case. The Film Commission doesn't need to get the marketeers involved. They need to take a punt and back talent and be honest about why they back the talent.
And inevitably be accused of playing favourites, because that's what will happen if this, you know...
But I think, you know, it's a maturity thing with the industry. The industry needs to understand there's at the moment there's an element of entitlement and expectation, and the reality is there's a very small pool of funding there, and as tough as it may be, we all need to accept we're going to get turned down at some point in our careers. It would be great to think we're going to get more money. The reality is, in the current government environment, we're not. So we have to work with what we have.
Now, it strikes me that one big hole in the review is television. It name-checks Film 4 as a potential model, but almost neglects to mention that Film 4 is actually a UK television network that made Slumdog Millionaire. Do you think there should have been more on that?
Definitely. I think television is absolutely key to film in a number of ways. Either through nurturing talent, you know, if you look at Nicky Caro or some of our more recent filmmakers like Brendan Donovan, yeah, their training ground was television. Yeah, our most successful independent producer, arguably, is John Barnett. He can do that because he has a strong television base. But equally, and possibly even more importantly, television underpins the finance of the film industry, either directly through television advances or indirectly. The distributor knows they can put up an advance because they know they can sell it on to pay TV and free television. So television is a really key component to the film industry, and I think it's a glaring admission from the report.
And if you're talking about writer-driven projects, as the review does, Outrageous Fortune would seem to be the prime example. Vincent, have you thought about making television? Would that suit what you do?
I've been asked to do, you know, material for HBO in the US by Tom Hanks' company at one stage, but you know, for the moment, I prefer making films, although I think there's incredible television programs being made out of the US, you know, especially for the cable networks. But I wanted to pick up on a point that Richard brought up, and it's not specifically to do with the review. Our problems lie outside of the review, and that is that, first of all, there's only one-stop shopping. You know, if you're trying to get a film made, every institution that could help you has, over the last 5 years or 10 years, been stripped away. There's very little money you can get from television. Other government departments that at one stage or another put money into film have been stripped out of the equation, and the money that comes to the Film Commission has, per the cost of living, got considerably less. So shooting times have come down from, say, 8 to 10 weeks, which 15, 20 years ago, for a film, and now people are expected to shoot films in 5 or 6 weeks, and far fewer films are made. And I think there should be some acknowledgement that our industry, outside of Peter Jackson, is dramatically shrinking.
That is a good point. Ant, I just want to talk to you about the escalator scheme, because you did 2 features with Headstrong Films through the previous low-budget scheme. This one... It seems quite an odd way of doing it. I mean, you're someone who runs a film competition. This looks like a film competition for funding, is that?
Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a crossover there, but I think it's kind of more extraneous, you know, not really important. At the end of the day, it's going to be a team of people. It's going to be a director and a writer with a vision who are going to make a film. I don't think it's going to be any different. It's just that the amount of time involved is going to be completely reduced, and it's going to be fast-tracked. I mean, the whole idea of these films is that they're not going to take 3 to 4 years of development. They're going to be...
But on the flip side, I think it's a very good point in the review. 12 teams have been putting through this boot camp experience. Yeah. They've been forced into guidelines, and only 4 of those films are going to be made. So 8 teams
are going to
have wasted several months, a huge amount of energy.
Well, they haven't really wasted several months. They're going to be wasting. If you talk about wasting, they're going to waste a couple of months. I mean, they're basically asking writers to write an entire draft for nothing. And I think that's what one of the points that Peter raised in the review is like he thought that was kind of stingy, and possibly there could have been some money going towards the writers because they're going to be doing the majority of the work for the submissions that happen at the end of August. So
we are going to have to wrap up now. I think it's fair to say that there's a guarded welcome from everyone for the review. I think you all just disagree on which bits you like.
I'm absolutely happy as long as I get more money. That's fine. That's good.
And on that note, that's our show for this week. It remains now to see what the Minister will do. He's telling us 3 to 6 months. Thanks to Richard Fletcher, Ant Timpson and Vincent Ward. And thanks to you for watching. We'll be back with Media 7 at the same time next week. Until then, goodbye.